There are so many sounds of a baseball game that bring us back to our childhood. The sound of the crack of the bat, the voice of the peanut vendor, and the roar of the umpire. An umpire is tasked with keeping order and pace in a 3-hour contest. And what do they get in return? The scorn of players, coaches, and even fans alike. In today's episode, I chat with former Major League Umpire Shawn Rakos about the life of an umpire and the road to the big leagues in my attempts at trading shoes with a Major League Umpire.
Welcome to the Trading Shoes Podcast, where you get an all-access look behind the scenes of fascinating careers in the sports world from the industry professionals themselves. The Trading Shoes Podcast is a production of Q Time Productions. Here's your host, Bryce Strand.
Hello and welcome to the Trading Shoes Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. For today's guest, I'll be chatting with former Major League Umpire Shawn Rakos. Growing up, I used to go to a lot of baseball games, right? I'd see a lot of games on TV. I'd watch them almost every day. Probably went to 5 or 6 games a year. And, you know, it was just, there's so much when you go to a baseball game, right? I mean, it's more than just the game on the field. There is the crowd, just the commotion in the crowd, kind of the unintelligible noise that comes from the crowd. It's seeing the peanut vendor and going and buying that popcorn. It's the crack of the bat. It's the spectacular plays on the field. It's all the stuff that goes on even in between innings, right? At the major league level, certainly, especially at the minor league level, it's all part of the entertainment, right? And for someone like me that went to so many games, not only did I feel like I got to know the players in terms of knowing their names and what they were about, but I also felt the same about the umpires. And I thought it was always so cool to be an umpire because you're right there at the same level with all these great famous players. And your job is to stay pretty straight faced and just do your job, right? And keep players, a manager is in check and keep the flow of the game going. Not only that, but going around the country to all the different parks, all the different cities for 6 months a year and wondering, what that might be like. And I can remember growing up and remembering the names like Ken Kaiser, Rocky Rowe, John Hirschbeck, Tim Welke. And I don't know of those guys who the best umpires were and weren't. I don't know. But I can certainly remember the radio announcer, the TV announcer, even the ballpark announcer telling you the names of the umpires. And I always thought, what a fascinating job that would be, which is why I'm really excited to bring you today's guest. Let's welcome in today's guest, former Major League Umpire Shawn Rakos. Shawn, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, you bet. Good to be here.
Hey, so Shawn, tell us when you decided, when was it that you wanted to become an umpire? And when you did that, kind of what does one do to start that career path?
Well, definitely started at a young age. I mean, everyone does it, but I did. I started at, I think, 14 or 15 years old, just doing Little League and stuff like that. And got up into into high school and, didn't play baseball after my, what was it, sophomore year? Yeah, it was sophomore year. And so I basically just umpired and then got into a lot of local assignments with some of the associations around, hometown, down in Puyallup, and started working in those and graduated high school. And my dad surprised me. I guess I was 19. So I was in my second year of college, and he got me tuition to go down to Brakeman Fleming Umpire School down in Cocoa Beach, and yeah, that's how it went.
So what I knew about that camp, but tell me what kind of goes in. How long is that camp? What kind of stuff do they do? Do they weed people out, or is it just more of a, hey, we're going to spend X amount of time just teaching how to be an umpire, or is it a tryout? I mean, tell us about it.
Okay, yeah. So it's a 6-week deal, and anyone can go. And there's people that just want to get better. There's people that just like the camaraderie of being around umpires, and then there's people there that are trying to get a job. And basically, you can pick however you want to go that route. And they kind of ask you, why are you here? What is your reasoning for being here? And you can tell them, and they'll put the energy on where it goes from there. And of course, you want to be young. You want to be young when you go to umpire school. Maybe from 18 to 26 is probably your best age to get a job in the minor leagues. So yeah, my goal was to get a job, and it's kind of like a boot camp, man. That is all you do from 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the evening. You are in classes, and first like 8 to about 11. If I remember correctly, I think that's about 8 to 11. You are in the classroom on the rules, learning rules, and then after the afternoon session, you're out in the field doing drills, learning the mechanics of a two-man umpire system, because that's what you're going to be in when you go in the minor leagues for the the first 3 to 4 years. So yeah.
So you start out in the minor leagues, and certainly I'm guessing you probably made your way through all levels of the minor leagues. So tell us what the lifestyle is like of a minor league umpire, and I would imagine it's probably somewhat different from rookie ball or A ball or instructional league ball, even all the way up to AAA, where I know you had experience as well. So tell us about that lifestyle, maybe how it's even different from one level of the minor leagues to another.
Yeah, sure. So when I got into it, I started out in the Arizona League. That's where I started. And the Arizona League is a fixed league. You are in the state of Arizona for the whole season, which is only a 2.5 month season. So how that works is when I was there, we spent half the season in the Phoenix area, half the season in Tucson, and umpired. It was every game was at 10 in the morning. Umpired the game. It was pretty laid back because there was no fans, no nothing. It was just players getting the experience and that kind of stuff. And then I went to the Northwest League, which was completely different. It's a travel league. There was 8 cities, I believe, and they had fans, so it was complete different setting, and it was cool. I mean, especially for me, I'm not a big guy, that likes to be in front of the crowd, so it took me a while to get used to. But once you get used to it and the fans and stuff, you just start molding your way through that. And then I went to the Midwest League, same deal as the Northwest League. Then off to the Carolina League, halfway through the Midwest League, spent half year there. Then went to the California League, spent a half year in the California League. Went to the Texas League. Now, once you go to AA, and that's the Texas League, you go to 3-man umpire system. So, of course, that's going to be a little a transition period because you do have an opportunity, and I was very fortunate to go to the Arizona Instructional League, which in Arizona you work a 3-man umpire system. So I was able to learn it for that 6 weeks when I was down there before I just got thrown into the fire, which was nice because a lot of guys don't have that opportunity to learn the 3 umpire system. So they are learning it as they go once they get into AA. And then a lot of travel in AA, especially in the Texas League. When I was there, I mean, you go from Shreveport all the way to El Paso. So, I mean, that is a 14-hour drive. And so anywhere from Shreveport, Little Rock to the west side of that conference is a long commute. And that's 3 guys in a van. Here you go. So you get in the city at 11 a.m. Usually you're working at 7 p.m. So you get a couple hours sleep, head to the ballpark.
Yeah. So on the AA there, so I guess single A is similar, but you're kind of, you and your crew, whether it's a 2-man or 3-man crew, you guys are together. So they basically, and it's all driving. I mean, single A and AA, it's just, you get a per diem. So you get a rental or someone's vehicle, a rental car, whatever it is. And then you go there, you get, a hotel, you get your food. They give X amount of dollars per day per diem. And it's your job to find a way to get there. I mean, that's basically how it goes.
Exactly. Yeah. You usually, I mean, how it worked when I was in there, you got usually you had one driver. That driver got mileage. How it kind of worked, we worked, it was every 3rd or 4th tank the non-driver picked up because the mileage isn't great. Per diems, yeah, I think when I was in rookie ball, I think per diem was $22 a day. Yeah, that sounds about
Wow.
right. Yeah, so per diem wasn't great. Hotel was covered, and through single A, when I was in there, you didn't get your own room. You bunked up. You bunked up till you got in double A. So you really got to know your partner. Yeah, and you were with that guy the whole year. So, and as we know, everyone has different personalities and different ways people live. So you have to adapt to everybody. Yeah. So.
So now AAA, is that, you're getting a fly, I'm guessing, from Colorado Springs to Sacramento to Albuquerque to Tacoma, I'm guessing, yeah?
Yeah, you're on a plane every 4 days. Yeah, so yeah, you get your schedule, and yeah, it could be you go to Nashville to Omaha to there was a couple drives actually when you were in AAA. Omaha to Des Moines was a drive, and then Portland to Tacoma was a drive. And also, we actually drove Albuquerque to Colorado Springs. So there were a few drives that you could choose to do. The two that you had to do was Omaha to Des Moines, Portland to Seattle. So.
Okay, and then tell us about in AAA. I mean, some of your minor league highlights. I mean, I know you got to do the AAA All-Star game and or the AAA World Series, whatever they call it. Did you do both of those?
I did actually. I did two of the All-Star games. I did one in Albuquerque, one in Portland. Both really cool events. Very fortunate to get to do those. And then I believe it was my last year in professional baseball. No, it was my second to last year in professional baseball. I worked the AAA championship and also the PCL championship. I worked that a couple years. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. Very fortunate to get to do those. It was really cool.
So was that just basically kind of a merit-based thing? Is it just they grade you and your performance, and then those who grade out the best get to do the All-Star games or the
No,
series?
that was based. So it worked two ways. Seniority picked. So once you get years vested into AAA, Branch Rickey was the league president. Amazing man. He based everything on seniority. So once you got to number one, number two, crew chief, you could pick what you wanted to do. You could pick if you wanted to work the PCL championship, you could go work that. Or if you wanted to work the All-Star game, you could do that. So there was some options in there that Branch let you do once you got into the seniority aspect of it. When it came to the championship, I can't remember how that worked. I think that was picked by the league president. Yeah, I think that one was picked by the league president. So
the next step, of course, is to make it to the major leagues. So how do you get your into the major leagues? Is that a merit-based thing? Is it more of a connections thing of who that's already there that can put in a good word for you? How are you chosen to get the major leagues?
Yeah, I everyone has their own opinion on this. I think it's done by merit. I mean, I really do. Yeah, there's been different words. I mean, how would I explain this? Different people that have gotten in, people think that, he got pushed. Well, I know of a couple guys that knew people in the high ups, but they're great umpires. So, I mean, I think it's merit based. That's how I think it is. And so how it works is once you get to AAA, at least when I was in there, once you got to AAA, you started getting looked at by major league supervisors, and they would come into your AAA season and watch you. And how it worked when I was there, and I think it still works the same way, not sure, but they would pick 12 umpires to go to the Arizona Fall League. Those 12 would be kind of their prospects on who they wanted to look at to become a possible major league umpire, or even get the opportunity to go work in the major leagues to see what they had. So that's kind of how that worked. And that's an 8-week deal down in Arizona. They take the teams themselves takes all their prospects, send them down there. They play an 8-week season. 4-man is just hammered into you. You get to learn the 4-man umpire system. That's when you learn it. So great experience. We had 3 times a week. Yeah, 3 times a week we had actual meetings to go over the 4-man system before the games. with the Major League supervisors. So very informative, very, very cool experience for sure.
So finally, you get your what year was it when you got your call up to the big leagues?
I think it was 2008, if I remember correctly. 2008. Yep.
Okay, so you didn't start out though 2008 opening day, right? You kind of came in at some point of the season. So how did that work? How did you get the opportunity to fill in for somebody? And then tell us where that first game was at and what that experience was like.
Okay. Yeah, I actually totally remember it, man. Really cool experience. I was in Oklahoma City, and we actually got rained out that night in Oklahoma City, and I was sitting in my room. Was kind of flipping through the stations, and I saw Texas got rained out also, which Oklahoma City and Arlington's only 3.5 hours away. And I was like, ooh, man. So how it works is if a Major League Baseball game gets rained out, they bring in a AAA umpire to work the bases so the plate guy doesn't have to work both games. So I was thinking, ooh, this might be my chance. Sure enough, 11:30 rolled around, and Richie Garcia actually called me and said, yeah, tomorrow morning, why don't you drive down to Arlington and work the doubleheader? So yeah, it was a great experience. Awesome. Never forget it.
So what base were you at for that game?
I worked third.
Okay.
Yep.
So they must have had some sort of uniform ready for you, right? Because your PCL uniform is different than your Major League uniform, correct?
Right. Negative on that. So once you go to the fall league and you become a prospect, they give you uniforms. So I kind of left the part out there actually, Bryce. So once you go to the Arizona Fall League, then if you're a prospect out of the Arizona Fall League, they'll take you to spring training. They'll take you to Major League spring training. So once you go to Major League spring training and you become a prospect and they consider you an up and down umpire, they give you a number. So then once you get a number, you get all your uniforms. So they give you all your uniforms.
So you weren't wearing that in the AAA games. You just kind of had it always carried around with you just in case you got the call, kind of a thing?
Absolutely. Yeah. You just keep it in your bag.
Well, you just mentioned spring training. So can you tell our listeners, you got to tell us about the Barry Bonds story.
Oh, Barry Bonds. Yeah. So it was, this was a long time ago, but Barry Bonds I think he just came back. He was hurt. Does that sound right?
I think that's right. Yeah, I think so.
So it was first spring training after he came back, and it was his first at bat. And it's pretty cool. I rang him up. So yeah, it was, and got booed by in Scottsdale where the Giants were when I was there. They packed the place during spring training. So yeah, I rang them up, and man, I think there was 12,000 people probably there, and all 12,000 were booing me.
Well, I remember reading about that, and it was mentioned. Your name was mentioned, and the writers wrote pretty emphatically about how you ring him up. So, do you remember? I mean, was there a little extra special oomph on that ring up on Barry Bonds, or was it just truly, this your traditional, strike three?
Yeah, totally my traditional looking strike three. I think the deal is in Scottsdale, they usually don't send a lot of well, at least when I was going through there, they didn't send a lot of call-up umpires. So they were used to the old timers that kind of, maybe weren't as, emphatic and ripping it. So yeah, I'm sure it was a little different than, a Joe Brinkman strike three, right? So I'm trying to impress someone. So yeah, I think that's kind of why they said that. I'm totally speculating, but I think that's why.
So with your experience, I know you got a few series in. Did you get any chance? Did you go from that series to another series? Is there a lot of difference in terms of Major League umpires in terms of how they travel versus maybe how a AAA umpire travels?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They fly first class. I don't. Once you go, so when you get called up, you don't fly first class, but if you travel with them, you do. That was pretty cool. What the coolest thing is once you're done with the game in the major leagues, you don't touch any of your uniforms, any of your gear. It's packed up by the clubhouse attendant and sent to the next city. your bag's opened up and all your stuff's put in your locker for you. You don't even touch it, which is really cool. So
Sure.
yeah, that's about it when it comes to that. Travel, yeah, I mean travel, right? So yeah, you're still up. Usually it's usually on the first flight out. Sometimes you're lucky enough to get a flight in the evening, but very rarely.
So tell me about the difference between doing, and maybe this is a major league thing, or maybe it's even at the minor league level too, but the difference between doing home plate and doing the bases. I'm guessing, do you do any sort of, as an umpire, any sort of prep work, research in terms of, hey, this pitcher is going to be pitching, so maybe I'm doing home plate, so I need to watch some video of them to kind of see some mechanical things, or whereas a home plate umpire might do that, whereas a base umpire might not have to, or is it pretty much just, hey, whether I'm doing home tonight or whether I'm doing the bases, it's just whatever, I just show up and do it?
Yeah, you definitely have to trust your, all your skills that you've learned over the years. There's no studying. Yeah, you just trust what you've learned over the years, and I mean, focus is the main thing when you're behind the plate. So yeah, I don't think. I mean, you could ask probably every umpire. They're not going to look at stats and stuff. They're just going to go work their game and do the best they can. Definitely trust the skills that have been, taught to them and they've learned over the years.
Do you remember that your first major league game behind home plate and who the pitchers were by chance?
I do remember my first game behind home plate. I do not remember the pitchers. My first home plate game was in Colorado. It was Colorado and Cincinnati, and it went 15 innings, 4 hours and 15 minutes. Yeah. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. So I do not remember who the pitchers were. There was a lot of different ones. I do remember that. Cool experience. Yeah. I was lucky enough. My wife got to fly down for that one and spend that with me. So yeah, that was really cool. And then most memorable play job was probably 2000. Yeah, it was 2008, same year I think it was. It was the last game of the season. It was Giants Dodgers in San Francisco. I had no idea what was going on. I worked the last play job of the year, and Lincecum was pitching. So knows to me, he was going for the Cy Young, and I had no idea he was going for the Cy Young. Well, the game went 2 hours and 20 minutes. I think he pitched 8 innings, and it was like 2-0, and he won the Cy Young that year. So that was pretty cool.
That's outstanding.
Yeah.
So you talked about some of the travel pieces. How about in terms of like pay and benefits? The difference between, I mean, it's got to be stark, and not just between the majors and the minors, but all the levels of minors. But let's say between a major league umpire versus maybe a AAA umpire, what's the difference in terms of pay or benefits, et cetera?
Yeah, pay wise is huge. I think my last year in AAA, I made $3,500 a month plus per diem. In the major leagues, when I was there, $130,000 starting salary plus per diem. So, and per diem back then, I think, Bryce, it was $380 a day per diem.
Wow.
Yeah. You paid for all your stuff out of that. Now you paid your hotel room. Mm-hmm. You paid your clubby dues. The clubby dues were like, depending on who, where you went, who it was in between $50 and $100 a day. So,
okay.
Yeah, there was some money expense there, but yeah, I mean, definitely a huge jump in pay once you get there. And I know for a fact, it's definitely gone up considerably since then.
Oh, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
So you talked to us about your journey from, high school age, starting out in little leagues, all the way to the umpire school, your journey all the way through all the levels of minor leagues to making it to the major leagues. Shawn, tell us, why did you stop? So how much of that was on your end, or how much of that was, maybe the system or whatever? Tell us about kind of how your career ended.
Yeah, it just, I think it was a numbers game, Bryce. I think it definitely wasn't my decision. I think my number just came up it was time to move on, and no regrets, zero regrets. Happy with how it turned out. Couldn't be more happy where I am in life right now. Got 3 amazing kids, beautiful wife, great house, great career. Now I'm a plumber. It's it's awesome, and I still get to do baseball. I still work college baseball, so
So you're still doing Pac-12. I know you're doing Pac-12. You still doing that to this day?
I am. Yeah, I do the Pac-12 West Coast Conference and Big West and Western Athletic Conference. So
Okay.
yeah. So tour around there. I actually worked a super regional last year, which was a lot. Not last year, 2 years ago in Arkansas, which was amazing. Great time. It was a lot of fun. Talk about a place that packs in the stands for a college baseball game down there in the South. They do it right, man. It was cool. It was a lot of fun.
A few things I want to ask about is kind of the layman baseball fan here. So how, you hear stories and you want to know kind of how much of it is urban myth or whatever, but you hear about, you see part of the pageantry of baseball, I guess, would be that, that manager tirade out there kicking the dirt, throwing the bases, all those kind of things. So how much of those manager tirades would you say in your experience are kind of either pre-planned? You've also heard like they say, hey, before the game, I just might go off, I'm trying to motivate my guys, or how much of it is, they're just trying to send a message to their team versus hey, they're just really ticked off and they just can't control themselves, kind of a thing.
Sure. Yeah. No, it definitely went both ways, man. It definitely went both ways. You catch a guy on a bad day and he's ready to go, and I definitely had a few of those, and yeah, I've had a few. Tell me before the game, man. We've canned 8 in a row, man. I got to do something. If we're not doing well, you're gonna have to run me today. All right. Yeah. It's fine. Yeah. So it definitely goes both ways. Yeah, for sure. There's all different, as you know, there's all different kind of personalities out there, and at the end of the day, I think everyone, for the most part, there's definitely a few that I would say through my years that don't respect me, but there was always a mutual respect. Everyone had a job to do out there, and everyone was going to do it at their best ability.
So through your experience, maybe whether it was at the minor league or major league level, especially with names of people that baseball fans would know, who are some of the good guys that you got to deal with in terms of whether it be umpires or maybe players or coaches that the average baseball fan might know, whether you had encounters with them at the major league level or even at the minor league level?
It's a great question. Nelson Cruz was always a good guy. I had him all through the minor leagues. Awesome person.
You hear about him as somebody that's been on several teams, or whatever, and in the local market here, he played here, and it was just beloved by media, by teammates. Everybody just raved about that guy. They loved him.
Yeah, he's just a great person, man. He really is. Very humble. You would never know that he was a superstar talking to him. He was just down to earth dude. Great guy. That's probably my most memorable guy. There was actually a couple guys. God, what the heck was his first name? He didn't spend too much time in the big league. Steve Holmes. He was a catcher at the Giants for a stint up there, but now he's actually a college baseball coach in Purdue. He's just a great guy too. Yeah, just you could be having a bad day, and he'd go into the dugout, and he'd always have your back. He would always have your back, and you'd be talking to him, and you go, "Yeah, I'll get a better look at that, Steve." And you missed a pitch, or you didn't stick with it, and he's, "Oh, I got you. No big deal. We'll get the next one." And that's always nice, because not everyone's like that, as you know. So yeah, he was a great guy also.
I'm glad you brought that up. Let me talk a little bit more about the that piece on the relationship between a catcher and a home plate umpire.
Yeah.
Because that's got to be, you kind of know in baseball, one of those deals, like where there's a foul ball and it goes off the umpire's leg, right? And so the catcher will, walk the ball out to the pitcher to kind of cover for the umpire, so the umpire's not just standing there, everybody looking at him like, oh my gosh, writhing in pain, and vice versa. When the catcher takes one off the shoulder and is wincing a little bit, the umpire will, call time and maybe walk a ball out the umpire or the pitcher and underhand it to try to, there's kind of, maybe it's to save the embarrassment or whatever, kind of being everybody all eyes on you. But maybe talk a little bit about how that works with developing a rapport between catchers and a home plate umpire.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's probably your hugest report you're going to have. And some you're not even going to have a chance to have a report because they always got a chip on their shoulder. Once you get up in the minor leagues, it kind of goes away. Once you hit the AAA level, they weed out those guys. Usually that doesn't happen too much. There's definitely a few, but yeah, for the most part, that's your biggest relationship. They can make or break your day. I mean, they really can. They can. They're in the dugout, and because back when I was there's no cameras, so you're just hoping that they're believing you, and that pitch is 6 inches outside because he's sticking it, but if he's going, that catcher's going back in the dugout and telling the manager that, yeah, that was right there, and you're gonna fight it all day. So yeah, that relationship's very, very important.
So I don't know how much this was around when you were umpiring, at least in the major league level, but maybe you've encountered a little bit now working at college baseball. But what do you think, maybe from an umpire's perspective, about the new pitch tracking software that they're using to potentially to grade probably home plate umpires and potentially, maybe even, I know there's been some pilot in the minor leagues of actually using it. Umpires are just there to basically voice the call of the pitch effects or whatever it's called that they use. What are your thoughts about that?
It's a great tool, great learning tool. It was actually there. It was called Quest Tech when I was going through the minor leagues, and it definitely teaches you when you're calling off the plate and when you're on the plate, because it gives you the disc and it shows you inch by inch how far you're off. Great tool for me. Yeah, it's going to take, if they go to that type of deal, it's going to take the human element out of it, so it's going to take that rapport away. Am I a fan of it? No. Is it a good tool? Absolutely. It's a great tool, but I think most people would probably agree with me. At the end of the day, you probably want that human element in a baseball game.
So final question, what is one thing that you think is maybe the biggest misconception about an umpire to the average baseball fan?
I think the biggest misconception is, I think most people think we're jerks, and we're not. We're just everyday people. I really think that's, it's like we come out of the ground, we go do the game, we go back in the ground, and we're a bunch of jerks, and that's not the case at all. I mean, if you really got to know how it is, there's a huge rapport between an umpire and all the teams. So they know who you are. They know how you are as a person. And there are some that are that way. There are some just, red asses is what we call them, that aren't going to take any crap. There's guys that, will listen. And, as an umpire, you have to have that as a double-edged sword. So you have to have a little bit of both of that in there. Either you get walked on, but you have to have both. You have to know how to deal with people and learn different personalities. And you can call this one guy every name in the book, and tomorrow you can go out to dinner with him. Where one guy you can't, he's going to hold a grudge against you. So yeah, but I think that's the biggest misconception, that we just come out of ground, go do the game, go back in the ground, and we're all jerks. So.
Well, I think that would be true for an umpire, especially a high-level professional umpire in any sport, referee, whatever the sport may be. Of, you talked about the piece of being perceived as a jerk, but you have to have not only confidence, but you also just have to be able to kind of stand your ground.
Definitely.
And I would say that's probably one of the things that they probably, I'm guessing, when you're maybe in your situation, when you get sent down to the instructional league or even working your way up in the minor leagues, that's probably the one thing that might weed somebody out. At some point, knowing rules is knowing rules, and that's great. But what separates the best from the rest are the people that can do so professionally, but also confidently and, like you kind of said, like holding your ground, right?
Absolutely. Handling situations as an umpire is your biggest thing, hands down, if you're going to get to the major league level, or if you never will get to the major league level. If you can't deal with the people, if you can't be confident, like you said, there's a difference between confident and arrogant, so you have to run that fine line, of course. And that's going to make or break your career right there. A guy that's going to get stepped on is not even going to be able to get even close to that. You have to have that fine line. That's the most important part as an umpire, is handling situations. Hands down. You're totally right. Ball strikes, safes, outs, rules. Yeah, man, you're pounded that. And either you got the instincts or you don't. But yeah, handling situations. And that's something you learn. That's the great thing about the minor leagues. You have, well, not anymore because there's been so much turnover, but when I was there, you had all those years to learn it.
Well, Shawn, I want to thank you so much for coming on our podcast. So your willingness to answer so many questions and really allowing our audience to trade shoes with an umpire to get to know the lifestyle and what it takes kind of in coming up from the lower levels of the minor leagues all the way up to the major league level, and just being able to share your insights with us. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Bryce.
That'll do it for another episode of the Trading Shoes Sports Podcast. Thank you for joining us. Please help us out by subscribing to our podcast on Apple Podcasts or YouTube at the Trading Shoes Sports Podcast channel. Also, a big thank you to Q-Time Productions for their help with today's episode. Until next time, thanks for listening.